Hi, welcome to the Little Visa Boy. Today we're going to talk about the second most popular permanent visas granted in Australia, which is the employer-sponsored visa, more commonly known as the 186 and the up-and-coming 191 visa. We will briefly go through what this visa is, what kind of criteria both the employer and applicant must meet, and the things to look out for when lodging your application to increase your chances of success. Starting things off, what is the purpose of this visa? To answer this question, we first have to understand that Australia is still an island nation that is very dependent on overseas workforce. So to fill in these skill shortages, we will require a continuous influx of skilled workers. So with this in mind, essentially these types of visas allow an Australian employer to legally hire a foreigner and in return giving them permanent residency, which sounds like a good deal, right? But there are a few considerations beforehand, before we can lodge this visa. There are currently three types of 186 visas. The direct entry, which is for people who can apply directly to permanent residency without the need to work for the employer beforehand. Transitional, they are for people who already work for this employer for no less than 3 years under the 482 visa program before applying for their permanent residency. Lastly is the labour agreement stream, where the employer themselves has special agreements with the Department of Immigration, which may lead to imposing special considerations or criteria towards sponsoring someone under this program. All these sounds great, but of course there are numerous considerations and conditions that have to be met by the employer and the visa applicants themselves as well, which we'll go through the basics right now. First things first, let's look at the employer's side. The employer must indicate that they are running a legitimate business and is actively running this business. They also need to demonstrate that they try looking for Australians to fill in this position, because remember, when it comes to skill shortages, Australians comes first. And thirdly, depending on what occupation they are sponsoring you under, there is a list of limited occupations that can be sponsored under this visa. Whereas on the applicant's side, you have to be under the age of 45, have numerous years of work experience, have a positive skill assessment for your occupation, and of course, a satisfactory English level. However, it is important to remember that there are exceptions to most of these criteria, and it is really dependent on the background of these applicants themselves, as well as a sponsoring employer. When applying for these visas, there are several considerations which can affect the success of your cases. Before applying, it is best to do the following checks. Firstly, check on the occupation list in regards to the type of visas your proposed occupation can apply for, as well as if there are any caveats attached to that specific occupation. These caveats may include proposing a minimum salary level, the company must have a revenue turnover, or have a minimum amount of Australians working there. It is also advisable to make sure that to lodge an acceptable job advertisements beforehand to show that the company has indeed tried looking for local Australians to take on this position within the business. When applying for the application, make sure the employment conditions are no less favourable than any Australians working in that position. Being able to justify the needs for the position is also very important. For example, did the business undergo expansions recently, or were there redundancies for the position? Or does the position require a specific set of skills which is lacking in the local talent pool? On the other side of the application, there are conditions for the applicants themselves who can also be considered beneficial for the application. For example, if the applicant has already been working for the employer for a period of time under a separate visa, so for example another sponsorship visa or a student visa, then it can show that the applicant has already proven that they are active and valued employee of the business. The proposed occupation is highly lacking in Australia, such as people working in the medical fields or engineering or academic. Some occupations do require licenses to work in Australia. For example, electricians, mechanics, or nursing. Therefore, having these licenses beforehand will also be beneficial. So, there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any topics relating to migration or working in Australia, please feel free to leave your comments below. And remember, these are just general information only, so it is best to consult a licensed migration agent.